Hey everyone, and welcome to the Finding the Hidden Profit in Your MSP webinar. I'm really excited to share the stage with Matt from BeeCastle for the next 30 minutes. Our goal in this session is to help you think about some changes and conversations that should be had within your MSP that can pick up simple profit very, very quickly. Okay, in terms of the speakers on this call today, my name is Adam Ross, and I'm one of the co-founders of a company called CloudOlive, headquartered out of Australia. And my background to CloudOlive was actually working at Autotask for a really long time, from 2011 for 8 or 9 years, and Datto for a few years when the merger happened. And the key question that our partners were asking us at that time was, so how does everybody else manage all the license fluctuations across all the vendors and distributors that we work with? It's hard. There must be a solution. And there wasn't. Okay, so my co-founder and I, 3.5, 4 years ago, we set out to solve that very broad problem area. Today, we aim to distill down a couple of key patterns that we see time and time again that is impacting the margin within MSPs. Matt, over to yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. Matt Campion, Head of Products and Go-to-Market at BeeCastle. My experience, 20-odd years of experience in CRM and account management, previously with Salesforce in US and Australia, and also with Deloitte Digital. BeeCastle really helps you understand your relationships, increase your revenue, and grow your profits. And the business started really from our founder, David Wood, in the financial services industry, where looking at the relationships and digging deeper into the secret sauce behind successful relationships and then scaling that. So that data-driven approach to account management is really what we help account managers on a day-to-day basis know who to call, what to talk about, which products to talk about, and really the opportunities to go after. So yeah, excited to talk about some great topics, super relevant for today as well, with Adam today.
Let's get into it. In terms of the key takeaways, if you think about, we've been in the MSP space for myself, maybe 14, 15, Matt for a really long time as well. And like when you're doing a startup looking to solve a very specific yet broad problem, you obsess on all the different problem areas that all the partners are somewhat thrown at you. And the two key areas that we see over and over again is creating a logical data structure of some description, okay? There are massive flow-on benefits. And if you question whether or not you have set up your PSA, and when we say PSA, it's typically Autotask, ConnectWise, the Halos of the world, that have you ever wondered if that's been set up in the right way? Is it scalable? And when things are scalable, it often means that it's well thought out and it's often simple. Okay, we will be sharing some very specific considerations that you can think about. When the data structures are correct, and the data structures we're talking about here are definitely construct of the PSA and the tables and the services and all the rest. But also the way that you're actually billing your clients as well. They have a material impact when they're bound together. And when you have accurate data structures or more well thought out data structures that align to your customers, your MSP, the focused activity that can be driven through, well, mainly the account management and sales team and admin finance teams is massive, massive, massive. Like if you think back, RMM and like monitoring systems and ticketing systems, they're extremely mature markets now, and everyone's got one or got something in place. Like technician efficiency has been really well thought out over the last 10 to 15 years. And now there's a massive investment over the last 3 to 4 years. And it's where money can be made inside the MSP through efficiency in other departments. Mainly today, we'll be talking about account management, sales, so client lifecycle, and of course the billing, admin, finance teams.
And look, just leading on from what Adam's saying there, sort of those couple of key takeaways, they really the illuminated and sort of the highlights of today's discussion, right? So we will be talking about really selling it right, and then as that flows through, billing it right from the technical, not from a technical, but from a data perspective, and the outcomes of what that means from a business perspective. So look, from both of our organizations, on the BeeCastle side, we've seen some really material results with our customers, increase in meetings, thousands of dollars in new opportunities, and that flows through to revenue uplift. And then I know on the CloudOlive side as well, Adam, you've seen some really outstanding results as well. Do you want to just talk through some of the flow-on effects of when the billing is done really well?
Yeah, and every MSP has a different starting point when we're having a conversation, and some find this, the problem they're having is they're worried that what they're getting billed from their suppliers isn't going out the door. Others are getting lots of questions back from their customers based on like a number of different challenges. But some overarching bets that we would put money on now is if you're doing things manually, meaning you're taking a distributor file, vendor file, and you're cross-referencing that to your AudioTask or ConnectWise on a monthly basis, for every 100 lines you're doing that for, 5 will not be getting billed out. And in the next handful of slides, when we talk through data structures, we'll actually discuss why that actually occurs and what can be thought about doing it. But as I mentioned before, RMM ticketing, a huge amount of investment. Now you're going to really see you'll be able to do a lot more with fewer people and drive much more scalability over the coming years.
You're right. This space is really moving up the maturity curve, account management, all the way through to the end-to-end billing. It's really come a long way in a short amount of time.
Very much so. So in terms of, just to give you an idea of, everyone loves a group of logos. So CloudOlive's main purpose is we will centralize any supplier that you are reselling via your MSP, any distributor, any vendor. And when it's all centralized and in one place, we want to make it very easy for the team to be able to see where you're overbilling, where you're underbilling, and then make the adjustments within your AudioTask or ConnectWise and move on. Okay. Very simply, but we will go into this in a little bit more detail shortly.
Look, from a BeeCastle perspective, we help you with a number of problems, and we know that account management, you're often pulling data from multiple different systems, life in Excel, data fragmentation. So what BeeCastle does is we pull data in from M365 and Relationship Keeper, help you better understand who you're meeting with and who you need to meet with. Whitespace, which we'll talk a little bit about further. So it gives you the ability to see all those opportunities within your existing client base already, of which there is a lot of revenue there that can be really found quite quickly. And then all the way through the life cycle, through opportunities, revenue. Again, the pain points that we really help account managers here is really one pane of glass. So instead of having to go to multiple different systems, you save time by getting deep insights in one platform. And that sort of leads us into the next sort of discussion around how important data is. So Adam, do you mind just sort of sharing, you guys are deep in billing, data is such a key part of it. What are some of the things that you've learned from your customers and some of the key takeaways that some of the listeners can really think about?
Yeah, I feel like we've earned our MSP billing PhD over the last handful of years, and as we've begun to understand this really, really deeply, and also 10 years at AudioTask, right? Seeing PSAs either set up well or not, and when they are set up well, they're amazing systems. When they're not, they're very big and clunky and difficult, and often people will be jumping around. One of the reasons why that's a difficult, well, not just that system, but it's a big system to implement and get right, is we found that a lot of MSPs will actually they will move ahead with a PSA of some description and just start implementing it before they look at the way in which their vendors are actually sending them their data, how the invoices are coming in, the time of the month that they come in, are they billing in advance or in arrears? And to help you understand, when we got a really thoughtful, methodical process to help new MSPs understand the pros and cons of their current data structures. Okay. And if you just think through some of the questions we ask as we're getting to understand, we know pretty quickly how well a system has been thought out and built. So it's like, are you billing in advance, arrears, or current month? Are you bundling services together? Are you splitting services out? Do you have edge cases where one tenant needs to go to multiple places? The more of the further away an MSP is selling compared to the way they're buying these services, the more complexity that will naturally occur. Okay. That being said, regardless of the decisions made or the way things have been sold via the sales team or just over time, there's some consistencies that you really want to just consider. Okay. And a really big one, probably the biggest one of all, is the service naming conventions that you go with within your business.
Yeah.
Okay. Having that well thought out. And like, one of the challenges everyone will face in the MSP world, if they an example, real world example, we had a client who was now a combination of a few MSPs that have sort of merged and been acquired, and they had one vendor, one service inside their ConnectWise or one product called antivirus, but all of the 4 different MSPs that they had just acquired all had their own antivirus products. So all of a sudden, when the management team were trying to decommission and or report on it, it became near on impossible.
Yeah.
So naming conventions in that sense will literally solve any future friction that will occur. And if you can be thinking about these things from a service naming convention, a contract or agreement naming convention.
Yeah.
And even thirdly, and probably third in level importance, is having the company names very closely aligned between, or identical ideally, between a source of truth, hopefully your PSA, and then all the different 10 to 15 to 20 different suppliers that you're actually working with. When those are in place, and it's really just simple, right? If you just do the naming conventions in a really succinct manner, it's logical for a new team member to come on and just run with the ball. Okay, there's no real complexity around that.
What are some of the benefits?
On the PSA setup side, the other data structure which doesn't seem to have the right level of consistency across all the MSPs we're speaking, or majority of the MSPs we're speaking with, is actually, what do you define as your source of truth? Okay. So the future of billing within MSPs, I suppose a lot of people have tried it in terms of user-based billing, device-based billing, site-based billing. A problem with that is, or not even a problem, but a challenge that a lot of people have, is that they don't define the source of truth for that. So if it's Microsoft's certain license types, that's fine. If it's RMM from a device perspective, also fine. And then if it's some other, I don't know, a Datto device or something else from a site perspective, really trying to understand what your source of truth is and trying to standardize and pick one that the whole team company gets behind for a period of time will materially make things easier as well across the board. So they're just some items that we've seen. Matt, what have you seen from the BeeCastle side in data structures?
Yeah, look, pretty similar type of things in terms of the root cause. So we would have a product catalog, and not just the naming conventions like you've said, but then there's a sort of a categorization, which categories or bundles do those products or services go into. And why that is important is because that's got flow-on effects. So we'll see in a second in white space, it comes back to sort of the buckets that you want to drill down into. Customers see that, hey, within security, I've got these products. Okay, within backup, I've got these ones here. So getting that source data right as it flows through has multiple benefits, and flows through to reporting as well. So when you're sitting at a monthly sales meeting, or even at an executive level, when you'll see product or growth trends through different product categories, you know that that product or that service is in the right bucket, and that totally makes sense for the business. So yeah, there's enter once, use many times. That old sort of adage for data has so many benefits in this instance as well. Adam, why don't you give us a couple of examples from CloudOlive and the material benefit that the outcomes of getting that data right?
Yeah, no, I think also understanding like it takes the billing reconciliation, the invoicing of clients is not everybody's favorite time spent. Not saying the nicest possible way. Amazingly though, only 14% of your vendors change on a monthly basis on average. So all of that time, all of that effort, all of that bled revenue, all of that, it comes down to a team or an individual spending all of that amount of effort to literally try and locate a very small subset of things that have moves on a monthly basis. And we've learned now that there are 5 areas per vendor that an MSP will run some form of billing risk. Okay. And when we very first launched and very first client gave us a shot out of New Zealand, it was a company called IT Partners. They asked for an exception report. So before we had software, before anything else, we actually took a report from Autotask, and their Sophos invoice is what it was. And we spent a really long time, it was 70 hours actually, 70 hours to put into a Google Doc and present back to him. And they first presentation back, they were like, Adam, this is so overwhelming, the amount of data that you've just given us. And I went, okay, thanks for the feedback. What do you want to see? And they went, I want to see where we're underbilling our clients. And I was like, cool, that's the first bit of direct feedback that we've had, first client. So naturally, that is where we put what we put front and center per vendor. That's really the first fix up that you want to drive into and understand. Why are you now underbilling? Why is there a risk of money leaving your bank account and not getting recouped profitably by your clients? And human error can play a part in this, of course. Like quite often I could go back to every 100 lines that you're doing manually, 5 won't be getting on build. Most, like 4 out of those 5 will typically be the admin team has switched off the billing inside of Autotask or ConnectWise. And then the tech team hasn't got round to or followed a process. So that's just harder to decommission. But seeing that then drives everyone to quickly fix that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's seeing is believing, isn't it? The visualization just gives so many like aha moments of some things that might be missed, etc.
100%, yeah, 100%. And like going back to the topic of this hidden profit, where can you be like shining the magnifying glass within your business to try and locate quick, easy growth opportunities? And the main one would be, or naturally the first one you'd want to do is going to have the biggest impact if there are issues, unit counts being off between any of your suppliers and what you're on billing. Naturally, that's going to be the biggest if there is an issue there. Not on billing a service, could be technician forgot to switch something off, could be account and the finance team have switched it off within your billing system. And then the next one and really key, like we see this as a secondary step during the implementation, is working out, is your margin line by line? So we're looking at sort of this column here, is your actual margin for this line item where you anticipated that to be? And the reason why that's so tricky at the moment is if vendors increase their costs, and especially around Microsoft, NCE, different places in the world right now are getting their 9% increase in different areas, that it's very difficult to see this information and seeing it once and then fixing it, awesome. But then trying to see when your vendors change their cost on you in month 1, not month 10. Again, much easier to have that conversation with the client.
Adam, it looks like it sounds as if you're not only saving time, but you're finding things that were unknown before, like the unknown unknowns.
Yeah, definitely. This is very hard to find very specific information that's everyone wants it for sure. Very difficult to get this across every single one of your suppliers on a periodic basis, typically monthly. Very difficult. So absolutely, for sure. And it leads us on to the next point, which when I was at AutoTask, we were acquired by a really successful, really big private equity firm called Vista Equity Partners. And they have these standard operating procedures. Their whole model is buy growing software companies, increase the enterprise value, and then have an exit at some point. So there's like some similarities certainly to the drivers of MSP owners. And what one of their operating procedures, they had about 80 or so at the time, probably more these days, but they had something called a CAPDB, which was client and prospect database. Okay, and that was one of the first things that they came in and would implement into the businesses they acquire. And what they're really trying to do there is they grade your current customer base in terms of future opportunity. Where are the cross-sell opportunities? Where are your A, B, C, D style of clients? And then where should you really be investing? It's always going to be the 80-20 rule of it. Where should the entire organization focus 80% in terms of the 20% of the client base? And when like over the last 6 to 12 months, we've just been hearing so much about BeeCastle and them really solving this problem at scale for MSPs. I was like, we have to do a webinar together and talk through it. It's a big problem in any company that has more than one product that they can go and sell. So, Matt, I'll put it over to yourself to be able to talk through what you do and how what you've learned along the way.
Yeah, look, Adam, that's a really good lead-in story, because I think that it's such a common problem for MSPs. What we're looking at here is our white space module. I was lucky enough to go to the ConnectWise IT Nation in Orlando last year. We'll be going again this year as well. And hopefully might meet some of our US friends over there as well. And I spoke to probably over 300 people in 3 days, and so many people have said, I've tried to build a white space matrix in Excel and it either blew up, I broke it, or it just gets continually out of date very, very quickly. So the problem that we're solving here is just finding those opportunities that are really sometimes no-brainers, that previously that you couldn't see, that were hidden, now just become quite illuminated for you. The color coding we're looking at here is similar to CloudOlive with a bunch of intelligence in the background. BeeCastle has similar intelligence, just really the depth, but obviously in the context of white space and account management. The blue indicates that it's an active agreement, so that means there's really no opportunity there. However, the white shows that, for example, Freddy's Food Truck under the Microsoft 365 E3, okay, they don't have that. So that could be an upgrade opportunity. And likewise, if I go down to Black Rooster, which is around halfway down the column of companies there, they don't have a Microsoft 365. Now, out of the options, you'll see that there's 2 cells there that are green, okay, for Black Rooster, Microsoft 365 Business and Office 365 E5. The green indicates that is a stronger recommendation than E3, okay, and that is based on similar spend with similar companies, okay. So if you think about the pain of all the data you'd have to export to Excel and those type of things, this is just out of the box. And
Matt, just a quick question. Like I can talk to, when we were speaking with an MSP that we're now working with as well, and they touched on that they use you, and in the very first month when they just plugged this in, that they drove an extra $80,000, I think it was, in terms of opportunity for sales reps to focus in on. What typically happens when a new partner of yours plugs this in and sort of gets hit with information that they haven't seen in this light before?
Yeah, look, that's a very sort of common outcome. The best part, so the most common thing that we see is just embedding it, because it's essentially it's additive to your existing processes and complementary. So what we see is, in a weekly set of activities for an account manager, they'll include this in their weekly account planning. So I'll plan my meetings, I'll look at my perhaps QBRs or anything going on with my accounts. And additionally, I'll spend, half an hour on a Monday looking at my white space, which is dynamic and updated, and I'll look and create opportunities from here, which then push back to the PSA. So I'm finding I'm not going out cold calling. It is just within your existing client base. Our customers are very easily able to add, as you said, thousands of dollars to the pipeline, just by looking at it. So yeah, we're seeing some great outcomes, and people increasing the pipeline in a really efficient way. It's a data-driven way. And then once they're through, then they're able within BeeCastle able to manage those open opportunities. Again, it's the visualization. So the problem we're solving here is, what's my pipeline? However, the gradient of the green here, see the expected close in the bottom right-hand corner? What we do is we make the user interface super simple, so we save people time and we get insights quicker. So if that was red, that would be out of date. And also there's another column which is my last activity, which brings in my last activity from M365. And I suppose if we tie this back, Adam, back to sort of today's topic, selling it right and billing it right, what we are seeing in both our screens is just that flow-on effect of getting that source data right and pulling it through, and then the insights and the actions, and really the business outcomes that we can generate from that.
Yeah, cool. Matt, we just had a question. I guess it's for both, but do we help with the categorization, the sort of shining categorization of services and products in the setup?
Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah, and it's a very common thing that we do with a lot of our customers in the onboarding phase as well. They're able to, when you integrate into BeeCastle, you get a profit track, which is our free version, and we see a lot of the data in there, and we're able to make those changes. But yeah, we share a lot of best practices.
And just an aside, yeah, we actually asked for a report from either your AudioTask or ConnectWise and run some analysis with you before we start automating. The biggest thing we often find is depending on how many people have had admin rights over a period of time inside of your PSA, we aim to deduplicate services and products that don't need to be there anymore. Like, as a very broad stroke, the fewer products and services you've got, the better. Like, sort of retreat, and then you can scale and grow as you need to. And one of the other things from a CloudOlive perspective, if you're sort of questioning, I don't know my current state of what it really looks like, Google freemium CloudOlive and just go through a like self-serve, get started. It will return all the recurring billing items out of your PSA, margin per line, and it just has some really nice filtering capability and margin calculations that you can at least begin surfacing what's going on underneath. And then, like, naturally, it's just a far easier way to get data out of your AudioTask or ConnectWise and understand where you're at. But you can see the QR codes here. If either or both CloudOlive and BeeCastle are of interest, or you want to have a chat through your own requirements moving forward and needs, then just book in. It'd be really great to speak with you when the time is right.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thanks everyone, and we hope you got a couple of things out of today, and hopefully we look forward to talking with you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, so